Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Okay, all audio is captured. Okay, so today we are going to be going over loadout swapping. Again, this video is for you all on how to loadout swap in D2. My morning coffee. Most people don't. Well, they think it's impossible to do on PS4 and PS5. It's harder. For Titans, it's easier. For Warlocks, it's easier. Hunters, though, it's kind of hard. But it's still doable. It really is. You just have to hide behind something. And you have to pre-do things. So you might waste and burn, like maybe one of your stacks. We'll just get to that point. So first, we're gonna go, because it really doesn't matter, right, of what character I do it on. But we're going to go to somewhere where it gives me a flag. Um, uh, essentially, um, uh, I want somewhere that's I like the snow, so we're going here. I don't need ads. I just need an area where I can show you guys the and I want to do it in places that have some scenery. Alrighty then. Alright, so we're gonna get away from there, and we're just gonna show you. Alright, so right now, you see, okay, I have this build. Obviously, you go to loadout swapping to give the basis. Loadout swapping is when, because they got with this loadout, for you guys that are like tier 6 or tier 7 for Guardian rank, you're probably gonna only have just 3, 6 open, right? So, what I do, you guys don't have it, highly suggest you do, is dim. So, you've probably already made builds, right? And just to show you, I'm kind of a build fanatic. I spend, that's all the builds I have. Crap ton. It really is. So this is kind of like my history. Any season, it goes by season of the wish, right? And go down here, back to, we'll just go all the way down to the bottom. Season 19, season of the Seraph, Xeno, Font of Might build, the old Font of Might, when they had, that was literally A tier, right here. Font of Might was A tier. Like, this was perfecto, right? Thunder Crash with Font of Might. This one, had, the, I could get 2 supers off. They had a bunch of mods back then, but anyway, you get the point. You see the point, right? So you guys are gonna have only essentially these 6 slots open. So it's like, how do you maintain that? Well, whatever build that you've made saved in these slots, you go to dim. And let's say I want to keep a record of that, because your loadout swap is you make it and then you want to save it with dim. Once you would just link it with your Bungie ID, it's completely safe. It is a supported site that Bungie supports, so it is supported by them. So you could already see a Lament of War, and I have it here, right? So I could go here and save something over this, and it'd be perfectly fine. But we don't need to do that because I already have a build that I'm going to show you, right? So something about loadout swapping is you want to make sure that whatever you're swapping to is immediately its direct travel path. You don't want to put it up here and have it down here and have to go over this, because you could accidentally click on this. As you see, I have strand. What's to happen if let's say my strand build's here? It isn't, but let's say it is, right? I accidentally hit this. Obvious. Switches to the loadout, uses heavy ammo. I no longer have as much heavy ammo. There you go. Changes fragments and super. Obviously, people know that's going to take away both super energy. That's the most common. Another thing with loadout swapping most people don't understand is, so for example, here, right? See all these? Obviously, these have different stats. They're pretty close, but this one is different. Exotic armor. But if you go here, it still hasn't used anything. Right? Still hasn't like we'll go to the grenade. If I had a different fragment, it would have been gone. Empty. Would have to recharge. But, and this is key, if you're going to make a loadout, and most people, what they do is they make a pre-damage phase loadout, and that's your loadout where you're killing ads and stuff and has different weapons. The heavy has to remain the same. So whatever you're going to use for DPS or damage against the boss has to remain the same. So, for example, I have Whisper of the Worm, aka Black Hammer, for all of these slots, right? And I also have the same weapon because it's really good for ad clear. Dial's Bane, really is. Scatter Signal. I don't have to use anything else, as you can see here. I don't need any other exotic options. I don't need whatchamacallit. Sunshot. I don't need anything else. I've gotten that proficient. Right? So enough about that. But what has to remain the same is your fragments and aspects. As you can see, for each build, ashes, mercy, singeing, searing, weird, tongue twister. Same thing here. Ashes, mercy, searing. Now, they could be in different spots, but the fragments and aspects have to remain the same. They just have to. And the same thing for this. Different armor. So this is ashes over here. Mercy. These could be swapped back and forth. Just they have to have the same aspect and fragments. They don't have to be in the same spot. Obviously, everything really needs to be the same. Your grenade, remember, I use healing grenades. I don't use anything. I don't need it. I use the healing grenade as an extra healing option for Titan. Even though you do have Lorelei is nerfed. It is not as potent as it once was. So I use the healing grenade if I'm in a tight pinch. And I usually use it after a loadout swap. So let's say, I don't know, DPS is going to start, right? Gathering my stuff for the top of barricade. You'll see me do this. I'll come over here. I'll get my super off, right? I'll get it off. Get the extra damage in. And then I'll immediately swap. Here, right? And then by that time, I'm probably getting damage. So I'll have to get that, then I'll ready up, and I'll start DPS. And I just start, right? But the difference with the loadouts now is we're going to get into the build craft part. All right, so loadout 1, you want to make sure the mods are for gathering orbs, because you want to utilize your surge mods to be effective in just damage and whatnot. People ask, like, what's the point of all that? Like, I don't want to have to. I don't like chasing my. If you don't want to, it's fine. You could put 1 scavenger and 2 solar surge mods on. You're just not going to get the full benefit of the 25 boost. There's not. So you're going to do less damage. So it's going to take longer. So it's beneficial to learn something and get out of that comfort zone. It really is. It is doable on PS4. it would take, so as this is quite instant, for a PS4, I remember the days, you'd swap, and it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe about 3 to 4, 3 seconds maybe. PS5 is quicker. So now we get into, before we get into like your mods and your stuff that you have, if you are on a PS4, right, and you're trying to do the loadout swap, most people should have a PS5. They don't have a PC, but that's all well and dandy. All right, so let's say there's a wall right here, right? Damage is over there. I just got to activate it, so I'll come here. I'll put up a barricade. For Titans, it's easy. You put up a barricade. And you'll switch. You'll take the eternity to switch. Go over here. Switch to your damage loadout, right? Let's say my damage loadout is this. We're going just right to this, right? See the surge mods. Then I'm ready to start. Then I go and start DPS. After DPS, for damage, the damage phase ends. Find a safe spot when time permits you to do so. Pop a barricade or whatever you have to do, and then you switch back to your loadout. Then bada bang, bada boom. There you go. Now, Warlock, it's easy. Pretty much gonna go on Healing Rift. Hunter, you've got to be careful on, because unless you're running Invis, which I can show you a powerful build that utilizes Invis. And honestly, just you don't really need anything else. There's other supers you can use, but I will be showing you I will be creating build crafting videos later on builds that you can do to take into a dungeon, solo it. On both Hunter, Warlock, just basic builds, right? The most potent build that you could possibly do with the most basic stuff. So yeah, there's that. So back to this. So I call it phase 1 armor. Your phase 1 armor, which is your basically ad clearing stuff. Your pre-damage phase, where you're doing all the mechanics. Your mods want to reflect that. So, right, I want to be able to get my super back fast, so hands on, right? I want to get heavy ammo, so I'm gonna have him go finder, right? For my arms, I have loaders on, and again, I have heavy ammo. Your power of melee final blows create orbs of power. And this is where we get into, you have to pre-collect orbs because you have the surges, right? Because you're transferring the ×3 stack of your armor charge to transfer that to activate the surge mods. Okay. And there's specific ways you have to do that. So you're gonna want some sort of armor mod that allows you to get orbs of power from something, whether that be grenades, powered melee final blows. I find it's easier to activate with powered melee final blows. For Hunter, for Invis, it's going to be a bit harder. You're going to probably want to use a grenade because your melee is your Invis. Smoke bomb, saying, kind of hard to activate. If you're on another subclass of the Hunter, like say Arc, it's easy. Arc final blow, dodge, melee you arc melee, and you get a orb. Dodge again, restore that. It's really, loop is really easy to maintain. For Hunter, for Solar, the fan blades are really good, and also the throwing knife. Fan blades are typically more user-friendly because you don't have to rely on missing the dodges for some reason, and the fan blades charge quicker. You just gotta make sure they all strike. And you get radiant, so you do more damage. So it really helps the chain, right? So you typically want, I don't know, something to give you an orb power. And your build doesn't have to be mine. I go for resilience, recovery, and discipline. Obviously, I have my healing grenades, so I want them back as quickly as I possibly can. And I run a regen lost health as quickly as I possibly can. There is a huge difference between tier 9 health recovery and tier 3. There's a huge difference. Huge difference. Like, you're talking like like good 4 to 5 seconds of difference of when I take damage. So let's say, I don't know. Let's say, how do I self-damage myself? Okay, alright. I'm gonna shoot it. Hope I don't kill myself. 1 Mississippi. It's almost instant. Right. I have this slow early splendor, so it activates almost instantly. So let's get out of it. Let's show you my actual health regen. Right. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3, 4, 5. So 5 seconds with tier 9. If it's any lower, I'll probably count as that, so it's probably more in the lines between 4 seconds. I have 4 seconds where my health starts regenerating. If I have tier 3, you're looking around like 7 to 8 seconds worth of time before you actually start health regen, which is like period. It's a long time. And with PvE, especially when you're soloing a dungeon, you have all the ads focused on you. There's nobody else to take the aggro, and it's really hard to manage that sometimes. So I just kind of like, as a side note, recommend that you have higher recovery. But anyway, back to the video. The chest piece really doesn't matter. And I say that because there is some extra things you could do to pick up more ammo for triple reserves, like I have here. Let's go back to Whisper. I have here solar reserves. So while I have my ad clear loadout on, you'll see me sometimes just put that on, run over it, find somewhere to hide again, and take it off because I have triple reserves. It overflows the thing. And let's say you have multiple armor pieces. You just go here, and it equips the right one. If you're really just that short, if you don't know which one you swapped it to. But for me, I know it's going to be this one because that's where it is. I kind of memorized the spot that it is inside my inventory. But your resists, you want to style your resists to whatever you're doing. So right now you see double void, right? The double void resist is because of Warlord's Ruin is really what this is about. Because the final boss does a lot of void, and I style it for it's encounter based, so it'll change. You'll see me fiddle with it for like the ogre encounter. I think the ogre deals arc, to be quite honest. But there's a lot of void snipers in there. So I'll actually tailor I put concussive because that's what the boss does, but I actually put double void because of the snipers for the boss room for the ogre. And then of course at the final boss there is also his annoying ball of purple crap that he likes to spit out every 5 seconds, or even less. Here's where we get to the actual part of the thing, right? It isn't needed. It is helpful. Collecting a fire sprite, ionic trace, stasis shard, or void breach, or destroying a strand tangle has an escalating chance to give you an armor charge. What that means is exactly what it means. If I kill something, right? This is where you build into your build with aspects and fragments. Fire sprite. When you pick up a fire sprite, grants restoration. If you go to here, defeating scorched targets creates melee energy and fire sprite. Melee energy gives me orbs of power. How do I scorch targets? When I use an incandescent weapon, which is why this Sally's Bane is really good for this build. It's a really good ad clear. It scorches targets. It's great. I like it. It gives me the orbs that I have to have for the loadout swap. Solar weapons, obviously you want a scavenger. It doesn't have to be solar, right? There's other heavy weapons. There's Leviathan spread. There's a bunch. Just depends on what you're doing, what you're comfortable with. You want to have a scavenger matching that heavy weapons archetype. It's particularly what you have it for, because the special, you get it whenever you get it. And of course, most people rock double primary anyways. Now here is where you need to have some sort of mod to hold the charges. Not use them, but hold them. You will use them occasionally. That's just when you have to make sure you just got to get another orb, and it's really easy. I have Reaper. Pretty much, you pop your class ability, whether it's Invis, Dodge, whatever. A few seconds later, you get a kill. You keep the enemy poops out an orb of power. It's another option. It's consistent. Happens 100% of the time. Because the escalating chance for the other mod on my boots is a chance based, but it still stacks. Because it get it rather quickly. I hardly even notice it. I have mine on healthy finish here. The reason being it only consumes one stack. It heals me, and it continues after that point to then I still have the 2 other stacks. I hardly even notice it because I'm constantly using things that are just so habit to me that I always have 3 stacks of armor charge before I do the loadout swap. Now, the reason why you need something like this, it consumes 1 stack, collecting orb power causes you to gain 1 temporary armor charge. You want the temporary. You don't want the one that decays over time. Temporary armor charge is exactly how it sounds. It's temporary. Once you use it, it's gone. The one that decays over time are these. And this is what you're going to use for your final deep damage phase loadout swap. Essentially, you would switch to that, and there you have it. All right, now that that is done, you really want one of the ones that, and honestly, the healthy finisher is probably the best. You could use that one, but it consumes 3. It's huge cost. 3, 3, 2. Here's 1. It's not really useful. 3, right? 3, 3. So they all consume 3 except for this one. 1. That's why I use it. So it doesn't punish you as much. And it's getting 1 back is easy enough. Getting 3 back can be depending on how many ads you've just killed. If you have any ads left, if you have them at all, then you're kind of screwed if you just like did that. So that's why I just say just put the healthy on, call it a day. So now we're gonna go to the other loadout, the actual damage loadout, which as you can see the mods are different. Some of them are slightly the same, right? Some of them are different. And you can see also that the resistance mod changed. It also depends on what I'm doing. Certain boss encounters require certain enemies and certain resistances, and I kind of swap things up for the boss for that temporary round or whatever. I think that's what I was doing. I can't remember which dungeon I was doing. The Grandmaster, I think. I can't remember which. It doesn't matter. Anyways, so I swapped loadouts. Ornaments changed and everything. It's kind of great. So now, let's go through the armor. Helmet's pretty much the same. Arms are pretty much the same. Resistance are different. Here's where it changes. Solar Surge. You see there's nothing on here for collecting fire sprites, collecting orbs, collecting ammo, because I've already done that. This is my damage phase. So I have 3 surges. I don't have any mods here because these little minor boosts don't help. Because if I place this on here, it only gets me to 5, and 100 is capped, so that doesn't help. Strength, it only goes up by 5. That's not going to help me because it either has to be 40 or 50. The 3 on the 20 for the intellect doesn't help. The 6 on the strength doesn't help. It's either 4 or 5, 1s or 0s. You either want that full conversion or you just don't need it. It's just like a wasted spot. You don't need it. Now this is where it changes. Some people, to give you more time, you typically want to have the 3. I have only 1 because this gives you a while. I can't remember the exact seconds it gives, but it's a pretty long time for each stack of armor charge that decays. I have this because sometimes there's ads in the middle and I could pop a barricade and still get armor charges to keep it going, to keep refilling the stack of 3, and it kind of resets it. So continues throughout the entire damage phase, which is nice for the ogre boss fight. Considering you're running from each plate to plate, and there's many other boss fight that has ads actively spawning, and all you have to do is throw a hammer, and there you go. Collect an orb, or sometimes I already have my burning fist active, and I'll scorch something, ground a tangle, whatever, or a fire sprite, get restoration. It's great. It's loop. It's less time, but I'm used to it that much. That's why I only use it. But for people that are new to it, just stick with the double, and you'll be fine. And that's the extent of it. As you see, there's 3 slots here. In a damage phase, let's say I'm starting to do damage, right? I would actually switch to this. It doesn't start my damage meter. I'm still holding the charges with this secondary loadout. Then I'll do that. While that happens, I'll come here, and then I'll start the damage. The super would have gone to the boss, and now I can start damage with whatever heavy weapon of choice I have. And now it actually officially starts. You can get into those higher, like, multiple switches. You see on some of the solo flawless raids, they're actually switching between, like, a literal crap ton of them that they're switching between. Kind of insane. So freaking cool to watch. It's kind of the higher echelon of just, like, PvE stuff. So that's it. That's the loadout system. Remember, when you have a loadout, you need to make sure all your fragments and aspects are the same. Grenades and everything have to be the same. You want to make sure whatever build that you're going to do, you commit to that. You can experiment with builds in each encounter, whatever you want, but whatever you make the loadout for the loadout swap, it has to be. Thank you all for watching. That's all for today, and you have a wonderful day.